The mahogany door slammed so hard the frosted glass rattled. I stood in the hallway of Hartwell Industries, staring at the nameplate that read Executive Boardroom, my face still burning from the humiliation. "Only real contributors allowed," Uncle Richard had announced, his thick fingers pressed against my chest, physically pushing me back as board members filed past. "This is for actual shareholders, not charity cases riding on family connections." The worst part, my father hadn't said a word. He'd just looked away, adjusting his tie like he always did when he was uncomfortable. My older brother Timothy had actually smirked, muttering something about knowing your place, as he took his seat at the table. I straightened my blazer, the same one I'd worn to my first day at Hartwell Industries 15 years ago, fresh out of college with a head full of dreams and a heart full of loyalty to the family business. Now, at 37, I stood locked out of a meeting about the company's future, deemed unworthy by the very people I'd spent my career protecting. "Ms. Hartwell," a nervous intern appeared beside me. Should I get you anything? Coffee?" "No, thank you, Derek." I managed a smile. He was new, probably didn't know I'd been effectively demoted from Chief Operating Officer to Special Projects Coordinator. A made-up title that meant I got all the work nobody else wanted and none of the recognition. Through the door, I could hear Uncle Richard's booming voice. "Now that we've cleared out the non-essential personnel, let's discuss the real business. The offer from Pinnacle Corp." I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a contact saved simply as M. "It's time," I said when she answered. "They're discussing the Pinnacle offer." "You're sure about this, Natasha?" Miranda Chin's voice was calm, professional. She'd been waiting for this call for 3 months, ever since I'd first approached her with my proposition. "They just slammed a door in my face and called me a charity case," I replied. "I'm sure. I'll make the call. 60 minutes. I hung up and walked to my office, if you could call a converted supply closet an office. It had been my space for the past year, ever since Uncle Richard had convinced the board that family members without significant shares shouldn't occupy prime real estate. What they didn't know, what I'd made sure they never knew, was that I'd been busy during my exile to the corporate basement. You see, when grandfather started Hartwell Industries in 1962, he'd been meticulous about one thing: documentation. Every share, every transfer, every corporate decision had been recorded and filed. And guess who'd been assigned to organize the old files as part of my special projects duties? That's when I'd discovered something interesting. Grandfather had created a trust, the Hartwell Legacy Trust, that held 35% of the company's shares. The trust had been forgotten, lost in decades of paperwork and corporate restructuring. According to the documents, the trust's shares would be distributed to the descendant who best embodies the values of dedication, innovation, and protection of the company's interests. There was just one catch. The trustee was grandfather's lawyer, Eleanor Morrison, who'd retired 20 years ago. Finding her had taken months. Convincing her to review my case had taken 3 more. But Eleanor remembered me. Remembered the little girl who'd sit in grandfather's office, absorbing every word about business and honor, and taking care of your employees. More importantly, she'd been watching from afar as I'd worked 60-hour weeks, implemented systems that saved the company millions, and fought to protect employee benefits while my family members treated Hartwell Industries like their personal piggy bank. "You're just like him," Eleanor had said, signing the papers that transferred the trust's shares to me. Harold would be proud. That 35%, combined with the 18% I'd quietly acquired over the years, buying out distant cousins, purchasing shares through shell companies, accepting stock options instead of bonuses, gave me 53%. A controlling interest. The boardroom door opened 45 minutes later. I heard Uncle Richard's voice booming down the hallway. "Tell Pinnacle we're accepting their offer. $300 million is more than fair for." He stopped mid-sentence, seeing me seated at his desk in the executive suite, signing papers with my favorite Mont Blanc pen, the one grandfather had given me for my college graduation. "What the hell are you doing in my office?" Uncle Richard's face went from red to purple. "Security." "I wouldn't do that, Richard." Miranda Chin stepped out from behind the door, her Armani suit impeccable as always. "As Ms. Hartwell's legal counsel, I should inform you that security now reports to her." "Her lawyer." Timothy laughed, but it sounded forced. "Natasha can't afford." "Ms. Chun is senior partner at Chun, Blackwood & Associates," I interrupted, not looking up from the papers. "They handle acquisitions for Fortune 500 companies. And I glanced at my watch. 7 minutes ago, I'm their newest client." This is ridiculous. My father finally found his voice. Natasha, stop this childish behavior and... Childish. I set down my pen and finally looked at them. Really looked at them. Uncle Richard in his too-tight suit, buttons straining against years of expensive lunches. Timothy with his nervous fidgeting, probably calculating how this would affect his golf club membership. My father, looking older than his 70 years, confused and irritated that his younger daughter was making a scene. Was it childish when I restructured our supply chain and saved the company $4 million annually? I asked. Was it childish when I personally negotiated the Henderson contract that's been keeping us afloat for the past 5 years? Or when I worked through Christmas to prevent the union strike that would have cost us everything? You were doing your job, Uncle Richard sputtered. That doesn't mean. My job. I laughed. My job title is Special Projects Coordinator. I don't even have a real office. But somehow, I've been doing the work of a COO, CFO, and half the board combined while you've been golfing with potential buyers, trying to sell out our employees for a quick payday. Miranda cleared her throat. Gentlemen, if I may direct your attention to these documents. As of this morning, Ms. Hartwell owns 53% of Hartwell Industries voting shares, making her the majority shareholder and, effectively, the new chairman of the board. The silence was beautiful. That's impossible, Timothy whispered, his face draining of color. I own 12%, Dad owns 15%, Uncle Richard has 20%. And Natasha owns 53%, Miranda repeated patiently. The math is quite simple. But how? My father sank into a chair. Where did you get the money? Some of it was already mine, I said simply. Cher's grandfather left me that you all forgot about because you never bothered to read the full will. Some I bought with my salary. You know, the below-market salary I accepted for 15 years because family doesn't need competitive compensation. Some came from employees who were tired of being treated like expendable resources. Employees can't sell their shares without board approval, Uncle Richard protested. They can if they're retiring or leaving the company, I countered. And surprisingly, a lot of people wanted to leave after you cut their benefits last year. They were happy to sell to someone who actually cared about their futures. The Pinnacle deal, Timothy started, is dead. I picked up my phone and hit speaker. Mr. Davidson? This is Natasha Hartwell. I'm calling to inform you that Hartwell Industries is no longer for sale. Yes, I'm aware my uncle was negotiating with you. No, he no longer has the authority to do so. Thank you for your interest. I hung up on Pinnacle Corp's CEO while my family watched in stunned silence. You can't do this. Uncle Richard's voice had lost its boom, becoming almost a whine. We had a deal. $300 million. Would have made you and the other board members very rich while laying off 40% of our workforce. I finished. I read the proposal, Richard. Pinnacle was going to gut the company, sell off the pieces, and leave our employees with nothing. That's business, he exploded. No, I said quietly. That's greed. Business is what I've been doing. Keeping this company profitable while you've been trying to sell it off like a used car. My father stood up slowly. Natasha, be reasonable. You don't have the experience to run a company this size. I've been running it for 5 years, I shot back. You just didn't notice because you were too busy taking credit for my work. Miranda handed me another document. This is the motion to reconstitute the board. As majority shareholder, Ms. Hartwell has the right to call for new elections. She's also within her rights to terminate any executive positions held by current board members. You're firing us? Timothy's voice cracked. I'm giving you a choice, I said, standing up from the desk. You can resign with dignity, keep your shares, and receive a generous severance package. Or you can fight this, and I'll call for a full audit of your expense accounts. Tell me, Uncle Richard, can you justify the $500,000 in client entertainment last year? Or Timothy, what about the company car you gave your mistress? They went pale. Of course they did. They'd been treating Hartwell Industries like their personal bank account for so long. They'd forgotten someone might be keeping track. This is betrayal, Uncle Richard hissed. Your grandfather would be ashamed. My grandfather built this company with his bare hands. I said, my voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. He believed in taking care of the people who worked for him. He believed in innovation, in growth, in building something that would last. You three have spent the last decade trying to tear down everything he created so you could buy bigger yachts. I pulled out one last document. This is grandfather's letter to Eleanor Morrison, the trustee. Would you like me to read it? The part where he says he's afraid his sons care more about money than legacy? Or the section where he hopes someone in the family will remember what really matters? Silence. I'll take your resignations by end of business today, I said. Miranda will handle the severance negotiations. Don't worry. I'll be more generous than you ever were with the employees you laid off. What about family? My father's voice was small, defeated. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Family? I looked at him, really looked at him. Where was family when you let Richard humiliate me in front of the board? Where was family when you promoted Timothy over me despite his complete lack of qualifications? Where was family when you literally slammed a door in my face and called me a charity case? He flinched. I'll always be your daughter, I continued. But as of today, I'm also your boss. And I have work to do. They filed out slowly, Uncle Richard muttering threats about lawsuits, Timothy looking shell-shocked, my father just old, defeated, as if he'd finally realized what they'd thrown away. Miranda waited until they were gone before allowing herself a small smile. That went better than expected. No thrown furniture. The day's not over yet, I said, but I was smiling too. Can you set up a meeting with the department heads for this afternoon? And I want to video call the satellite offices. It's time they heard from their new CEO. Already done, Miranda said. Your assistant Derek has been very helpful. Apparently, he's been hoping for a coup for months. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in years. Send out a company-wide email. All hands meeting tomorrow morning. Tell them. I paused, thinking of grandfather, of the photo of him on my desk, standing proud in front of the original Hartwell Industries factory. Tell them the company is under new management. And we're not for sale. Yes, ma'am. As Miranda left to handle the chaos that was about to descend, I walked to the window overlooking the factory floor. Workers were changing shifts, the same scene I'd watched from grandfather's knee as a child. These people had mortgages, children in college, dreams of their own. They deserved better than being sold off to the highest bidder. My phone buzzed. Timothy, you've destroyed this family. I typed back. No. I've saved the company. The family destroyed itself. Then I blocked his number. I had more important calls to make, starting with the union rep who'd been trying to meet with management for 6 months, and the R&D team whose budget had been slashed in favor of executive bonuses. It was going to be a long night, a long week, probably a long year. But for the first time in my professional life, I was exactly where I belonged, not locked out in the hallway, but sitting in the chair I'd earned, ready to build the company grandfather had always envisioned. And if my family didn't like it, well, they were welcome to slam all the doors they wanted. I now owned the building.